In recent years, the topic of harassment in the workplace has been brought into the national spotlight, bringing with it a renewed awareness about the serious and unacceptable nature of these actions and the severe consequences that follow. The term harassment may mean different things to different people, depending on your life experience. Just because you think certain conduct is acceptable or was acceptable in the past does not mean it is currently acceptable to the people you work with. The purpose of this training is to set forth a common understanding about what is and what is not acceptable in our workplace. By the end of this training, you will be able to recognize different forms of harassment in the workplace, sexual, non-sexual, and bullying, and you will also be able to know how to maintain an environment free from harassment by being aware of behaviors that can offend others and by clearly communicating that offensive behavior must stop. What is harassment? Harassment is a form of discrimination that consists of words, signs, jokes, pranks, intimidation, physical actions, or violence that is directed at an employee based on a person's age, race, skin color, nationality, culture or language, religion, physical or mental disability, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Harassment includes offensive behavior based on stereotypes about a person and behavior that is intended to cause discomfort or humiliation. Harassment can be intentional or unintentional. Even if it is not your intent to harass someone, the effect it has on another person is what counts. Saying, "I was just joking," doesn't matter. Harassment can occur not only with coworkers or someone in management, but even non-employees, such as contractors, consultants, delivery persons, vendors, or customers. Now let's watch a short video on what harassment might look like.
So will I see you at that 3 o'clock?
Yeah, I'll be there. Oh, you got it.
I haven't had sex in a month.
Well, excuse me.
What school did you go to?
Arizona State.
I didn't know they had hot girls at ASU.
You see Lisa's dress today?
Hell yeah, man. What's that thing, spray painted on? I want to spray paint it.
They promoted her? Mm-hmm. I know 5 guys more qualified than that.
Only 5.
Harassment may occur in multiple forms. The following are some examples and is not an all-inclusive list of behaviors which are prohibited. Verbal. Offensive jokes or sarcasm, swearing or curse words, pet names, comments about a person's body or clothing, asking about a person's sexual experiences or preferences, stereotyping, spreading or participating in gossip. Visual or nonverbal. Staring at or looking up and down a person's body, email or texts of a sexually explicit nature, making suggestive gestures, sending unwanted notes or gifts. Physical. Touching a person's clothing or hair, giving a massage, leaning over, standing too close to or brushing up against a person, invading their space, kissing, caressing, or pinching a person, following a person or blocking their way. What is not harassment? A difference of opinion, normal disagreements between coworkers, a manager following up on absences or deadlines, legitimate feedback from a manager regarding work, disciplining employees appropriately, enforcing policies or rules, as long as it is done equally to all staff and workers. Conduct is not harassment if it is welcomed. Now we will present some specific case examples of harassment and questionable workplace behavior. Our goal is to use these examples in learning how to prevent and respond to harassment situations. Our first scenario is just guy talk. A group of lifeguards often talk about women, famous women they think are hot, what physical traits they like, and how their girlfriends look. They also sometimes make comments about how their female coworkers look and what they're wearing. On occasion, the male coworkers will make crude or inappropriate comments and jokes that can be heard by other employees. Some employees feel uncomfortable, especially when the comments become sexual in nature. Is this scenario problematic? Yes. Though jokes may not be directed to other workers, it creates an uncomfortable workplace for others. The best thing to do is to talk to the employees directly about their behavior, or talk to a supervisor. Scenario 2. It's just a joke. Jackson, Caleb, and Ella are co-workers and are eating lunch together. While eating, Jackson and Caleb ask Ella if she's heard the joke about what blondes say when they have sex. Ella, who has blonde hair, is offended by their joke. She shakes her head, gets up, and moves to another table. Is this scenario problematic? Yes. In this case, Ella is not interested in hearing their joke. She has had it and gets up and moves. Ella's response is clear, and both Jackson and Caleb should realize by Ella's reaction that she is offended. She did not appreciate the joke, and Jackson and Caleb should have promptly apologized. Often people say, "I just didn't know I was being offensive." Well, the bottom line is, that is not a defense. Finally, Jackson and Caleb are making reference to sex in the workplace. Talking about sex in the workplace is simply not tolerated. In summary, if Jackson and Caleb have a pattern of telling jokes of a sexual, ethnic, racial, religious nature, they are indeed harassing their coworker. Scenario 3. Just joking. A group of maintenance specialists are telling jokes with one another. One worker tells a joke about Asian people spreading the Kung flu. Some of the crew members laugh, while others are uncomfortable and aren't sure what to say or do. Another similar example is of an employee who is an immigrant from another country and has reported that a group of his coworkers consistently make broad generalizations about his race and ethnicity and use phrases like "you people" when addressing him. He's asked them to address him by his name on several occasions. Are these scenarios problematic? Yes. Any of the following actions can be considered harassment and bullying: racial slurs, racial insults, racial jokes, degrading comments, intolerance of differences, treating an employee differently. Racial harassment is based on someone's race, skin color, ancestry, nationality, ethnic attributions like hair, accents, customs, beliefs, or clothing. Many jokes have a theme that is sexual, political, ethnic, or religious in nature, and you can be assured that someone will be offended. Scenario 4. Not taking no for an answer. A male patron who visits the gym regularly is flirting with the female customer service rep. She simply does her job by checking him into the facility, but the patron keeps asking her out. She respectfully declines and replies to the patron that she's not interested. The patron is persistent and brings her small gifts and flowers when he visits the gym, but she remains uninterested. Is this scenario problematic? Yes. Based on this scenario, the customer service rep has verbally stated that she's uninterested. The advances by the patron can be considered sexual harassment if she reports this incident to the Human Resources Department or her supervisor. Then, Human Resources or her supervisor can speak with the patron and explain that his advances are unwelcome and make her uncomfortable. What if the patron is a woman? Does that matter? No, doesn't matter. The sex of the harasser and the victim are irrelevant for the purposes of sexual harassment. The conduct is sexual in nature, pervasive, ongoing, and is not welcome. It is harassment and should stop. This scenario will describe another example of unwelcome behavior. This example involves touching. The use of touch can be a way of extending a welcome, as in shaking hands or giving a brief hug to express concern or happiness. Unfortunately, touching can also be invasive and not welcomed by all coworkers. Scenario 5, too close for comfort. Justin is a bartender, and most people see him as a friendly and outgoing person. He has a habit of touching people on the shoulder or arm when he talks to them. Justin has worked with Sophia for over 2 years. Justin walks over to Sophia and tells her how nice her hair looks. He begins to touch her hair and also tells her how soft it feels. Sophia walks away and later tells a coworker what Justin did and that it made her feel uncomfortable. Is this scenario problematic? Yes. Sophia needs to tell Justin she is uncomfortable with his behavior and that it's offending her. Justin may not have ever been told directly that his touching is inappropriate by his supervisor or his coworkers and simply does not know. Since Justin has a habit of touching others, Sophia may have tolerated the behavior up until this time, but that no longer matters. If the behavior offends her today, it must stop today. Often we do not know what might be offensive to someone else. Once we learn that our actions are seen as inappropriate, it's best to say, "I'm sorry," and never repeat the offensive action or behavior. Here is another question for you to consider. You are standing behind a coworker at their desk and you put your hand on their shoulder. Would this be considered welcome behavior? No. A reasonable person would probably say it was not appropriate to put your hands on a coworker's shoulders. Would it be unwelcomed? Yes, by many people. What if you took this one step further and you gave your coworker a short neck massage? Would this make it more or less unwelcome? Giving a short neck massage could escalate this into a complaint. Neither of these scenarios are appropriate. Touching a coworker in the workplace is a bad idea. You cannot be certain when a touch or a hug will be interpreted in a suggestive way. Scenario 6. An issue about appearances. William is a sports instructor and likes to wear jewelry, and his attire frequently includes necklaces and bracelets. His supervisor, Charlotte, thinks it's weird that, as a man, William wears jewelry. Charlotte suspects that William is gay, which she said she doesn't mind. Charlotte starts asking William questions about his private life, such as, "Are you married? Do you have a partner? Do you have kids?" William tries to respond politely no to all her questions, but is becoming annoyed. Charlotte thinks that William is being secretive and starts gossiping with William's coworkers about his supposed sexual orientation. Is this scenario problematic? Yes. William's jewelry has only become an issue because Charlotte considers it unusual for a man to wear jewelry. Therefore, her comments to William constitute stereotyping based on sex. William is harassed on the basis of sex because he is being harassed for failure to adhere to Charlotte's sex stereotypes. William is also harassed on the basis of his perceived sexual orientation. It does not matter whether or not William is a gay man in order for him to have a claim of harassment. Another harassment issue to touch on is the use of gender pronouns. Gender pronouns are how to refer to someone if you are not using their name. For example, you might say, "He is officiating the game," or "She left her keys at work last night." When someone asks you to use specific pronouns, they are asking for you to respect their identity. When someone refers to another person using the wrong pronouns, especially on purpose, that can lead to that person feeling disrespected, excluded, and alienated, and is considered harassment. If someone tells you specific pronouns to refer to them as, use those. Scenario 7. Too old. A newly hired 60-year-old pro shop assistant is being trained on how to check in golf patrons for their tee times on the computer system. When he completes the training and isn't as fast as other employees to check patrons in, some of the other pro shop assistants tease him by saying things like, "Get with it, Grandpa," and "You can't teach an old dog new tricks." They also take over checking patrons in when the task was assigned to the new pro shop assistant. Is this scenario problematic? Yes. Age-based harassment is a form of harassment in which a person is targeted due to his or her age, usually because the person is either older or younger than most of the people in a particular group. Examples of age harassment include teasing and insulting, derogatory age-based jokes, remarks made reflecting negative age stereotypes, remarks reflecting hostility or animosity towards older workers. As we near the end of this training, you may be feeling a little overwhelmed with information and may even be looking back at some things you have recently said or done and questioning, was I actually harassing in that comment? Or maybe that joke I told was not really appropriate. As mentioned, inappropriate or offensive remarks at work are frequently disguised as jokes. Many offensive comments in the workplace are delivered in joke form. Some people think that jokes are exempt from the expectations of polite and civil behavior typically expected in the workplace. Others know that their humor, such as in the form of a biting sarcastic comment, might be hurtful, but hide behind the excuse that they were just joking around. Sarcastic comments and humor do have a place at work. They can stimulate creativity and help teams work together, but sarcastic comments and humor have to be used carefully because jokes often require a target. Any sentiment that makes employees feel excluded or intimidated is unacceptable, whether punchline or not. So how do you know if your comments or actions are unwanted or unwelcomed? Ask yourself these questions about your interactions. Would I want someone to act this way toward me? Is there equal initiation and participation between me and the person I'm interacting with? Would I behave the same way if the person I'm in a relationship with or my parents were standing next to me? Would I want my behavior to appear in the news? As you've seen in this training, there are many different forms that harassment can take in a work environment. It is important for everyone in the workplace to prevent harassment in all of its forms. It is especially important for those in a supervisory position to be vigilant and protect their employees from the results of workplace harassment. We cannot stop harassment in the workplace unless management knows about the harassment. It is everyone's responsibility to speak up. If you believe that you have been harassed or witnessed harassment, you are encouraged to tell the individual that his or her behavior is offensive and must stop. If the behavior does not stop immediately, or you are uncomfortable telling the individual to stop, you must immediately report the incident to your supervisor or the Human Resources Department or another trusted supervisor. The Human Resources Department will investigate all reports of workplace harassment. Any employee who engages in harassment will be subject to prompt disciplinary action, up to and including termination of employment. Such harassment violates an individual's rights and personal dignity and undermines the integrity of the workplace. What can you do to prevent harassment? Think before you speak. Consider how you would react if the same behavior were directed toward your significant other, family member, child, or friend. Avoid behavior that demeans, degrades, abuses, or shows disrespect to any individual. If you have a doubt about whether to say or do something, remember, if it's not appropriate at a parent-teacher conference or church, then it's not appropriate at work either. Most people don't intend to harass others. They just forget to consider how others might perceive their behavior. To avoid harassment in the workplace, respect the work environment, respect all of your coworkers, and think before you speak. If you have any questions concerning the district's policy on harassment, you can refer to the employee handbook found on SubHub. You can also contact the Human Resources Department.